Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to All Beer Inside. Today we are in the Ottawa region. Joining me is John and Andrea from Spark Beer.
Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for hosting us today. I appreciate it. And as you can see, we are socially distancing because we are unfortunately in a time of COVID. So as we do on the show, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep your distance from people when you have to. Awesome. So what's the beer story? What created Spark Beer?
We love beer. We love wine and food, and just find that world to be fun and interesting and infinite. And we wanted to be in that world. John started making beer, so we decided we wanted to have a small local community beer venue. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's it, just for joy.
Awesome. That's always a good reason for joy and the love of taste. Obviously, your palates want to be satisfied, so let's keep them going. Speaking of satisfying palates, you brought me out some delicious beers to try. What am I trying first?
That's the Ovington Pale Ale, is that?
Yeah, Ovington Electric Pale Ale.
Ovington Electric Pale Ale.
And that one is named, we have a bit of a tradition of naming beers after people who have gone above and beyond in helping us start this.
Okay.
And Ovington is named after our electrician, Sean, who just, helped us out a lot and did more than he had to do.
What kind of flavor and notes am I going to get on my palate for this?
So this has, it's a kind of a nice tropical, not overly hopped as some American pale ales, those hazy ones are. It's got Sabro and Azacca in it, so there is a little bit of that kind of coconutty, kind of tropical note to it. At 5%, it's pretty drinkable. People really seem to like it. I like to stagger the pale ales and the IPAs kind of. So our pale ales tend to be kind of lighter, not as hopped as our IPAs. And because, some people just want to come in and drink a couple and not have like palate fatigue from just all of that kind of hop bite that you can get in some of the crazy hopped beers. So, it's good. I think this is probably our most popular beer. We usually have it on tap and in bottles.
Social distance toast.
Yeah, cheers. We only have one here, so I'm gonna.
That's fine.
You drink that.
Oh yeah, I get the tropical notes.
Yeah, and there's it's 100% 2-row, so it's just you got a little bit of that kind of nice biscuity note. Very simple.
That's good. 5% too. I was surprised. It tastes like, for me, I don't know. It's very deceiving percentages now because, like we were saying pre-show, it's like, oh, I'm drinking an 8% IPA, and I'm like, this is not 8%. And I drink a few of these, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. You learn quickly after you finish your second one that there's some alcohol in it.
Yeah. I'm getting like my cheeks are tingling too, which is very nice for the pale ale IPAs I usually have. So very tasty beer. Very nice.
Thank you.
Definitely try it when you're here. So as I asked most people, what were some roadblocks and difficulties you ran into getting Spark Beer up and running?
It took a long time. There were quite a few. Most of them can be kind of summed up as finding the right location. We had a couple in the works that fell through for various reasons. And so finding a spot was the hardest. There's a lot, especially if you want a downtown spot, space is hard and electrical or infrastructure is hard. But in the end, we found the perfect location. It's bigger than makes sense for this area. And it's in a neighborhood that we used to live in. Like, we met each other when we lived in Chinatown.
Okay.
And so it feels very much like a homecoming for us. So I never thought that we could find a place as perfect as this. It has its problems.
Yeah, and speaking of like roadblocks, the building was not in the best shape when we came in. Like, it did not look like this.
It had no walls.
There were no walls. Yeah, the ceiling was falling down.
Oh, man.
It was a travel
a
agency.
Lot of work. So I guess, roadblock with the renovation is absolutely also a roadblock, a very long one.
That adage that, it's going to take twice as long and cost twice as much is Like, and everything you read about opening a brewery, everyone's like, it's going to take longer than you think. And it's, licensing and all that stuff. So, but in the end, it's like this is pretty much what we envisioned for a tasting room, a neighborhood tasting room, somewhere that people can come in and enjoy themselves. Obviously COVID has put a little twist into that, but I think we're very happy with it.
Yeah.
No, and I'm more than confident that Canada as a whole, we've done a pretty decent job from what I can see with the numbers that I'm being told. So all in all, I do believe Canada is going to recover a little quicker than some other countries.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as some people might not like our prime minister, he's really trying his hardest for something that hasn't happened in over 100 years. So you can't really be like, well, they did 100 years ago. And
all levels of government have been actually really helpful and quick. Yeah. So the municipal level, just with patios and permits, people were working weekends, you could tell. And so it's very nice.
What I love too is in Ontario, and I'm sure other provinces as well, you guys get to deliver beer which is fantastic. That's just not an option in Quebec where we live, which is unfortunate. It's apparently some old law that they just don't want to get off the books. Yeah. It's like, why not? You're costing the province money, but I want to just sit down and have my beer delivered.
We didn't even realize we were allowed before to deliver beer. We just didn't know because it wasn't something we were considering. But when COVID happened and people started delivering, I was like, I think that's not legal. And then we called our AGCO rep, Stephanie, and apparently we were always allowed with certain stipulations. So it was like, that's pretty good.
That is awesome.
And people took to it like gangbusters. They really enjoyed getting the deliveries.
At the very beginning, there were a ton of deliveries.
Yeah, so that was good.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to be working from home on a more permanent basis now because a lot of companies are starting to realize that you don't need the big office downtown anymore.
And I think, the technology has reached, and especially with online delivery, like our website and our back-end processor, all of that was just quite simple to set up. And deliveries just kind of happened. So it didn't take that long. So I think it's good that this happened now as opposed to even 10 years ago where I don't know what people would have done because there was no way to get out of the office.
No, there's a joke online. It's like, imagine this 10 years ago with your Nokia flip phone playing Snake. It's like, what are you going to do then? So awesome. Where does the name Spark Beer come from?
Well, it's an electric brew house. So we thought that sort of made sense.
It's simple and easy to remember, and
sounds good.
Sounds good. Yeah, there's not a whole lot behind it. It's catchy and simple, and it looks good on a t-shirt.
There you go. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, simple and straightforward. That never hurts, obviously, because there's unlimited amount of beer names now, right? There's probably 2-3 million at least different beers out there.
Yeah,
so.
and it's like, and that's the whole process too. Is you're just Googling like name plus beer and see who's done it. Yeah. And if no one's done it, you're like, okay.
Yeah, I've already said, like, if I ever open a brewery, I'm like, okay, it's going to be named this. I check Google. I'm like, okay, that's available. Okay, if I name my beers, it's going to be these. Yeah. Okay, well, some places have them, but multiple places have the same thing. So it's just
register all the domain names, get the Instagram, get the Twitter.
Exactly. So that's another kind of roadblock and difficulty is coming up with something original when you think about it. If you have no creativity, then to me, the creativity comes in the beer as well as across in the name values and stuff.
There is a ton of stuff that, as a brewer, it's like, and a lot of home brewers have this idea that, okay, I'm going to start a brewery and that's great and everybody should. But it's the next step. It's like, okay, we've got the beers, but we have to do 1,000 other things on top of it in order to get the product out. Yeah.
Awesome. What's the second beer I'm going to be trying here?
So that is our Saison called Amiable. It's 6%, and this is done pretty much with it's 100% Barn Owl malt from Belleville, local maltster, and we use Styrian Golding hops, and the yeast is from Escarpment Laboratories in Guelph. It's their Old World Saison. I'm pretty open with my recipes. I like to give as much detail. If you want to brew it at home, email me. I'll give you the recipe. But,
awesome.
Notes of black pepper. There's a little bit of banana. It's a very nice dry. That strain dries out so nicely because I love a Saison that's super dry and super just drinkable. Crisp, we kind of try to carbonate it pretty high and kind of make a nice spritzy note to it. And yeah, I think it's named after the designer of our labels, Amy Thompson. So we called it Amiable as a nod to her. Awesome. She did all of the designs. She did all the labels.
She's a local artist, so
Yeah.
look her up, Amy Thompson.
Yeah. So this is I think it's a saison for saison drinkers.
Yeah.
It's not our best seller by any means, but it's something that I go to drink.
No, this is like right on the palate. I get the banana and pepper.
Yeah.
Even on the nose, just banana like right away. It is like a classic style saison from what I'm getting. And you know, saison used to be the IPA back in the day before the IPA became your big thing. Yeah, I just find styles kind of rotate for what people want right now.
Yeah.
That's just IPAs are so simple to make. New England's are beyond explosive right now.
Yeah,
so.
it's funny to see and how quickly these styles change. Like you said, things change. I mean, saisons were the rage like 5 years ago. Everybody had one, and now like nobody had. Like Tooth and Nail has their Valor saison, is really good, but not everybody has one because they take a little bit longer, and to get them to how I like them, you just kind of have to sit on them for a little bit. So, and the good thing is we brew it, and then we do another kind of table version called Neighborhood that is about 4%. We use the same yeast, add a little bit of wheat to it, but that's pretty much the same note, but a kind of a more drinkable saison.
Plus, the fact that you can reuse your yeast is always helpful too, because the more it comes along, the more it matures.
And it changes. And that's one thing that we like to do here is if a batch to batch, like if the Ovington electric is a little different next time, because maybe we've changed the yeast a couple of times. We've gone from a Vermont style to a hazy style back to a Vermont. And so we like to play with that. So it's, and the fact that we only do it here, we only sell the beer here, it's not in restaurants or bars, that lends it so we can play and experiment and do all sorts of fun stuff.
If it were easier to get, because I understand getting the LCBOs is a little difficult sometimes. If it were easier, you think you'd up production and start pumping them out, or you're more than satisfied with your customer flow?
We never envisioned being a volume.
Okay.
So, I mean, at this point, we have to consider everything because everything's different. But the plan was never to go into the LCBO.
Okay.
Someday it might happen.
I'm assuming it's easier too because you pretty much went from, instead of kegging and canning and bottling, you just bottles and kegs. So
like we and COVID's thrown this all like
COVID's thrown everybody off.
Like we have, I mean, not to keep bringing it up, but it is the time that it is, and we at this point we're just trying to get as much beer like sold from in-house as possible, and I mean, who knows, we might.
Yeah, we don't really have the resources to do volume at this point.
Yeah, but
either.
Expanding like.
Well, I mean, from what you told me when I called you on the phone, you've only been open since January, so you just kind of hit 9 months.
Yeah, and we hit 2.5 months, and then again, like, how many times can I say COVID in an interview? Yeah, COVID hit, and then that obviously changes the mindset, changes how we because we then just shifted to 100% retail, so we were bottling and canning a few things, but
that was my initial worry, is that a lot of breweries were gonna, a lot of upstarts are like, you're done, it's finished. And from what I'm seeing, go with the flow. We do what we can. People that had no online presence whatsoever, like all online all of a sudden. So you're able to adapt. I mean, the beer industry as a whole, I find, just adapts to the trends of what's needed now to get to customers. So
everyone's been so supportive, and our regulars are still coming in and buying. And when we could do takeout, they came and they got retail and they left. Yeah. And now that we have our back patio open, people are coming back kind of slowly, and it seems like people are kind of getting used to the idea of going out again. So I'm hoping we're kind of, if the numbers stay low and everything, we'll be able to ramp up.
And we're pretty lucky. This space is, when you think of smaller places, we do have enough space to keep people distant.
We're
pretty lucky.
It'll be in the B-roll, but you could actually have you don't need plexiglass splitters for everywhere. So it's very, very open already, which is very nice.
And we have a giant HVAC.
Pull all that stuff out. Gone.
There you go. Awesome. So you said the names mostly come from the people who have helped you out, obviously. So was that like always the plan? Is like instead of just Googling for hours on end?
I sort of have. I think that it was an opportunity for people who were having trouble coming up with names. So the first one was named after Ian Manhire, the Berliner Weiss, Manhire Berliner Weiss, because he's the concrete person and he was helping us a lot. So I think once we did that, we're like, oh, that was easier. Like, yeah, because it's hard to come up with names.
Plus, it's nice to just give back to people that, I mean, we had a lot of contractors and tradespeople in, some much better than others. And the people that actually were here to help and like literally they were actually interested in you starting your business and not just getting the check at the end. Yeah. You know, it's like, why not? I mean, it's kind of, we thought it was kind of nice just to little nod to them.
Yeah. Great shout out. Great. Yeah. Like, thank you it's a big thank you when you think about it in the end. I mean, you know, having a beer named after me, I'd be like, this is awesome. I love that. So,
well, we'll see how this interview goes.
We'll see how today goes. Let's see what the numbers are on the YouTube at the end.
Yeah.
Awesome. And the labeling, you mentioned you had a girl work on that. But did you have your own input behind that as well, or?
She is so talented that it was easy. She would just come up with something and be like, that's amazing.
Oh, and then just check it and that's it.
Yeah. And again, you're grateful because I don't know anything about that. And so if I don't have to think about it too much, that's great.
Yeah. You basically put your faith in somebody and say, we've known her for a very long time. Okay. We've been friends. And just to say, here's like, she knew kind of what our vision was and what we were trying to do here. And we were just like, go for it.
Yeah.
Have fun. We'll name a beer after you.
Yeah.
No, actually, we forgot to tell her.
Yeah, this might be the first time that
they were here. No, her husband was drinking it even, I think. And we were like, did you ever tell Amy? And so I went over and told her.
That's great. Yeah. Now, I see you go at the 355s in bottling. What made you decide the 355 milliliter cans over the common tall ones that I find at the LCBO?
I personally, and I like that form factor because especially if because we tend to put our IPAs in there. We've done a couple lower ABVs as well, but I just like drinking a 355 because if I get a 6.5% tall can, I always want to have two. So if I'm at home and I'm drinking the big collective arts, which I love, or one of those ones that I get at the LCBO, it's great, but it's just, I find it's like now you've had a liter of beer, and if you just want one and you're sitting at home and you're watching a movie or something, that for me is kind of that form factor. The bottles are, I like we like the style of bottle.
Okay.
And we have a very manual bottling line, which is basically a 4-head counter pressure filler that takes forever. So the bigger the bottle, the little you get a little time save on that. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next beer is
Ominous Whooshing. Now this breaks the naming scheme. It's a Twin Peaks reference, which is kind of another thing that we do here.
The second most common naming.
We both love Twin Peaks, so why not? This is a hazy IPA, as you can tell. It's loaded it's mostly Citra Simcoe. There's some Columbus in there to give it a little dank kind of pine. The Simcoe comes across I love Simcoe because I love it. It's very piney and it's not that, it's not just orange and grapefruit and lemon like some of the other ones. I love drinking these beers. I mean,
that's the most important part is you make something you love to drink. Right?
Yeah. So. It's funny because I love sours. I love making the process of making sours, especially non-kettle sour beers, and just playing with that. I love it. But if I'm just sitting at the end of the night and I just want something kind of nice to sit with, I always kind of go for the Ominous.
Percentage roughly?
6.5. Again, that I find that little bit of alcohol sweetness balances out the. We don't. It's not just late hopped. We do add a little bit of a bittering charge in this, and I find that alcohol sweetness balances out that little bit, and it gives it. It's creamy enough. due to the water profile, but it adds a little something extra to it.
The nose is absolutely beautiful. This is the nose I really like in my beer right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and me too. And it's like when you pour it, you can smell it from like if you're sitting at the bar, you can smell it.
Well, I always like doing that. Like I know you guys are labeled closed off. Like in Quebec, you have to be closed off. But I've walked into breweries. I have family in Cambridge. I walked into a brewery and I just like get that brewery smell. I'm like, I'm in love. So.
Yeah.
Ooh,
we
this has a beautiful nice little sweetness to it.
Yeah,
too.
and it's it finishes high. The gravity finish is a little high, so it
wow.
All of that together is
It's almost like a sugar cane I'm getting. It's very, very interesting. And this is New England style?
Yeah, like it's...
I've never had anything like this on my palate before. It's very, very unique, very new.
The chloride to sulfite ratio, I'd bump it up. Like everybody does. And I've been playing with it, but I find that this ratio... Again, if you want to email me, I'll give you the rest. It really does. It plays on the palate. It's a little creamy. It's a little... I wouldn't say too thick, but it's like there. But I think that with the combination of the little bit of bitterness, that nice hop profile, it works.
Yeah, barely any hop burn either. Like it's just awesome.
So this is a big thing that I try to avoid. And there's a few tricks that we've been playing with to try to avoid it, because hop burn sometimes just is so distracting.
Yes.
And it just takes away from an otherwise beautiful, beautiful beer.
No, it's great. And it's, like I said, it's unexpected sugariness on my cheeks too that I wasn't expecting. It's very, very fantastic beer there.
Thank you.
Very solid beer. What was the first beer you ever brewed, homebrew?
I did I'm trying to think. The Charlie Papazian book. He has it's American Pale Ale with DME and a few Cascade hops. That's when you boil it on the stove.
And it boils over.
And it makes a mess, and you're up till 2 a.m. and swearing, and the dog is running around, and all of that. Me and my friend Rob Sample, who still comes in, still good friends. Yep. We brewed it together, and it was good. It's a good beer. I remember it coming out. It was one of those like eureka moments that every home brewer has, where you're like, wait, I can actually brew like good beer at home.
Yeah. So far, I guess it's almost like 500 where, my first beer turned out crap and I almost quit the business. And then some guys are like, my beer's fantastic. I just had to open a brewery like that. It's like,
well, and I would never, I'm not one to say that there haven't been disasters here even. Yeah. Like you have to recognize that not everything is going to be perfect.
Yeah. I know somebody who works for one of the big two. And he's like, I don't understand how the craft brewers just pour out a beer. I'm like, they have to, because if they present crap, it's going to kill their image. Yeah. So, and he's like, oh, well, what we do is we just create this like low percentage bad beer on the side. I'm like, so that's how your bad beer is made.
Yeah. So, and they don't care about Untappd reviews, and they don't care about social media. And it's just like, they just,
I mean, Untappd is like a 50-50 thing too, because you do have your really bad beer snobs who don't rate anything above a 3.5. But I'm the type of person who's very fair for my beers. I have 2 or 3 5s because hitting a perfect beer it's got to be the right notes for me. But I have like 100 4.75s because it's just before perfect. Yeah. But
I have this thing where you tend to realize when you open a brewery how important. Well, it's generally important as far as just bringing people in. But I never gave anybody. We were in Cantillon, and I'm like, that's a 4.75. Yeah. And I'm like, but when I got home and I started brewing, I was just like, well, what's a 5?
Yeah, but it's also the person's palate. I mean, I know somebody who has like hundreds of 5s, but they've also tried like 10,000 different beers. Still, it's if 10% of the beers you've ever tried are 5, that means you've either got a very loose palate or a very refined palate, and you need specific tastes. And these guys hit it, so that's great. Awesome. Have you collabed with anybody?
No, not yet. We've talked to. Well, I know quite a few brewers around, and there's always conversations. Sammy at Gallagher's across the river in Elmer wants to do something, which would actually kind of be fun because we're talking about brewing something here and then brewing something there and releasing it at the same time. Yeah. And he kind of has the same mindset as we do here: small batches, a lot of Belgian influence, some sours, some IPAs. So we're kind of on the same note there.
Plus the Quebec, Ontario things.
Yeah.
That's a good way to go.
Yeah,
too,
and it's just like, it's fun. We both put our logos on it and sell it at the same time.
You got to add French over there. That's all. So.
I mean, we'll design that. And that's, just thinking about it, it's fun because we get to design the label and we'll put French on it here too.
If you could just get in touch with anybody in the rest of Canada, in the US, let's say the world, that you could collab with, who are some of those dream collabs?
Ugh. What do you think?
I know a lot of people say Hill Farmstead.
Yeah.
Because it's just, that's the place to go.
I mean, I honestly want, that's one of those, every beer that I've ever tried has been, speaking of fives, five.
Yeah, that's we did a recording where we got together and most of us were 4.5 and above and they were like 3 of them were saisons and 2 were IPAs, and we're just like, oh my god, how do they hit it?
Yeah.
I mean, I waited 2 hours just to get the beer. So.
Yeah, we were in Burlington and they had a tap takeover at one of the just all of them. Try all of them, but I guess Cantillon would be
a
be
Belgian, a blender.
Yeah,
would be fun.
like Dre Fontaine or
rare barrel, like a barrel program, intensive barrel program.
Yeah.
Fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads into beer vacations. Some you've been on, and some you'd like to. When it's safe to travel again, some you'd like to be on.
Well, we've gone twice to Belgium for beer reasons, and last time we also detoured into Cologne and Munich, also for beer reasons. I like to also stick some wine reasons in there too, and I love German Riesling, so it worked out. You know, there's a zone where both beer and wine can work out together.
The Venn diagram meets.
We've been to the Pacific Northwest. That's kind of went to Portland, drank a lot of IPAs, and that was probably 12 years ago now. It's kind of where I learned what a West Coast IPA was, basically, because there wasn't anything here. And like we went to Rogue, did that tour, and then even then it was like still like Deschutes was kind of the big one in Rogue. And
Rare Barrel, actually.
Yeah, so then we went, that was the next trip.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
San Francisco.
Future trips, we haven't been to Berlin yet, and so that's on the list for
Berliner Weiss.
Yeah.
And
what's the last beer I'm going to be trying here?
This is our Voices Carry Raspberry Sour. Why don't you take that? Okay. This is a somewhat longer aged. We have a house culture that we're basically doing a Solera, or a fractional blending, where we basically just pull it off and let the next wort just ferment. So it has changed quite a bit. This is probably the 4th iteration since we opened. So we like to keep it on there for about 4 to 6 weeks until the acidity kind of gets to where I like it, and it gets dry enough. And then we aged this on raspberries for another month. Okay. Because again, I don't want to put anything into a bottle that is still fermenting. But there's a little, there's a couple little Brett strains that are just starting to come. I keep adding to it as we go, so the Brett starts to develop. So there's a tiny kind of mild funk to it, but it's pretty much just juicy raspberry, and the acidity lends itself with that kind of fermented raspberry note.
The aroma really stayed like the raspberry. It's dry, but the raspberry really
like a blast of raspberry on my nose. Yeah. Oh, this is a very good beer.
It's
you said 6.5? 6. Yeah. That's pretty high. Like for a sour, that's pretty high when you got it. So.
Yeah. So we do. This is again because it ages for a while, so I want that little bit of alcohol sweetness again. We also do a Berliner Weiss that's finally coming back. That Berliner Weiss is on a Brett strain as well. So that'll be like 3.5%. So that's kind of the light drinking sour, and then these ones are like.
I can't believe this is 6%. It's going down way too for kind of a sour tart beer. It's going down a little too smooth for 6%. Yep. So this is fantastic. It's like drinking an alcoholized raspberry juice. It's fantastic.
We're very happy with how this came out. We have a peach version out now as well that we're just putting into bottles. That same idea. That's the 5th iteration, and it was peach puree plus some Niagara peaches, the Niagara peaches were added later so that it gives it a little bit of that kind of peachy, really sweet peach kind of note to it.
I'll have to try that off show.
Yeah. We'll give you a sample. It's really good.
I gotta say, like, my two highlights were definitely these two.
Yeah.
Just that New England IPA, the sugar just completely caught me off guard. That sugary taste. So, you got some fantastic beers here. I definitely, if you're in the Ottawa region, especially the Chinatown area, come and check these guys out. So speaking of checking you guys out, somebody comes, tries all your fantastic beers on tap. And I know you have a guest tap. So, but besides that guest tap, I believe you said Tooth and Nail.
Yeah,
That's right. The Bim and Vigor Pilsner.
Yeah, they're obviously one of your friends that you suggest to try. But anybody else in the area that you'd be like, okay, come and drink our beers, but then take a little walk and go to these guys, or
well, I guess a drive.
Yeah,
or,
drive out to Canada to
small pony.
Small Pony. Yeah.
those guys are doing awesome things. Well, it's awesome because this area here we have, like, if you're going west, you can get to Beyond the Pale, and then Tooth and Nail and Vimy is just around the corner there. So I mean, it's a really nice kind of brewery little walking area.
Yeah.
And then in the other direction is
Stray Dog is out in Orleans, who are great.
Yeah, we've interviewed Stray Dog.
Yeah, they make some amazing beers. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah,
like it is an awesome time to be a beer fan because there are breweries, and we're getting to that point where there are neighborhood breweries where it's like a tasting room where you go, and that's kind of your neighborhood pub, if you will, and something that was lacking in Canada for 80 years. Yeah, like that's
and it would be easy. Brew Donkey does tours, and they're reconfiguring how they do that for safety reasons.
Yeah, I saw that they're doing some sort of virtual thing that they were planning. So
and a la carte tours, local here. They do bike tours as well as more adventure tour things.
Yeah. So, get some exercise and enjoy some beers.
Yeah, so they're doing a couple things here. They're doing a Chinatown Unlocked, which is kind of like an escape room, but outside, and they'll be here, and you solve puzzles as you go from venue to venue. Yeah. So we're excited about that.
Carry it, a la carte tour.
If I could somehow make a show title of that, through that. So, yeah, awesome. So what's next for the Spark Beer brand?
Survival.
What's next? Yeah, so it's really just we're going to get through winter. Is our plan. We're going to try to keep as distant as possible here and make sure everybody's safe and keep doing retail. And then next year, I guess we'll just kind of start to ramp up a little bit, and hopefully people kind of start to know who we are. And it'll also be interesting because right now we are lucky enough to have a temporary patio in the back, like I mentioned. It would be nice to continue that next year. I'm hoping if the city lets us do it. It'll be they've actually extended the patio season to March, so we could do it all winter if we wanted to. So by
the time they're hoping that the vaccine's out, basically.
So I'm hoping people embrace the cold.
Well, have you thought about basically doing like kind of a giant tent?
Yeah, so maybe
some space heater. Well, not space heaters, but some
heaters. Yeah. So we have those now for the fall. And we'll see what winter brings because I don't know what is because we have to tear it down every night because it's a parking lot, so it's not permanent. But I don't know. We'll just keep on keeping on.
Keep on chugging on. But you guys are still going, and like you said, start in January and then March. All of a sudden, it's like done. But you're still going. It seems you're still going strong from what I've caught. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, people and like I was saying, people are very supportive. The neighborhood is great. Our neighbors are great.
Yes.
All the restaurants and stuff around here, everybody's supportive of each other, and we've done pop-ups with a few places, and we're planning a few pop-ups.
Yeah, we'd like to do more of those for sure.
So we'll see what the
thought maybe next March if it rolls back around the Ottawa Beer Festival.
Yeah, well, maybe they did contact us to do it this year, but we were still too young to even do anything. So, and there's an Asian night market that usually happens in July where they shut down Somerset. Pretty much, it's giant. Yeah. It is giant. So all of those things, like we want to participate in everything.
I know back in Montreal, like some of the major pedestrian areas, there's like it's pedestrian only this year. So
and this is what I mean the city here is very reluctant to do that for some reason. Some places, some streets they've shut down. But this could be the change.
Yeah.
This could be what actually makes people realize that you can drive downtown. You just don't have to drive everywhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, especially downtown Ottawa, it's park your car and walk.
Yeah, walk. Like, it's not that far. I mean,
I know your train system's still kind of new there, the light rail transit, so maybe when that comes along a little more so, then...
Yeah. And now it's got to be tough because people are so reluctant to take it now, but...
Well, I know back home, people still take our subway or metro. It's just slap one of these on and...
Yep.
Stay away.
It's hard. It's not hard. Do your part.
Awesome. But it's important that you guys are still around. And like I said, the more choice, the better for the beer drinkers like myself and my videographer, Phil. So we want you guys to survive. And that's part of our show is that we want to get your name out there to our viewership. So awesome.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you appreciate doing this. This is
the fact that you allowed us to come in early and took your time to do this. We're always super appreciative of anybody who's willing to do this. So we really appreciate that. Now, speaking of being online, let the people know where they can find you online.
Instagram, spark.beer.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's right.
And the website is also spark.beer.
Yeah, perfect. And if anybody's visiting the Ottawa region, let them know your address. 702
Somerset Street West in the heart of Chinatown near the Royal Archway.
Perfect.
It's easy to get here. Get off the Queensway, come up Bronson.
Look for the red tile
Look for the red tile building. There's no sign. It's because we're...
Oh, there's a sign. There's a sign out front.
We're working on it.
It says Spark Beer.
Yeah, on the window.
We're cheap and also super hipster. So
Yeah.
Use Waze or GPS and you find them. So awesome. Okay, so you got it all there. As for us, you can find us allbeerinside.com, @allbeerinside on all social media. And as I say at the end of all episodes, drink craft, not crap.